At 6:22 p.m. on October 9th, 2022, a weak phone signal flared briefly inside the deep backcountry of Hawthorne Ridge Preserve in northern Wyoming, an isolated wilderness known for its sheer cliffs, narrow canyons, and long stretches with no cell service. The phone tried to send a message, failed, then went silent forever. The message, partially recovered later from device memory, contained just 6 words. "Please help. He isn't letting me leave." No call followed. No second attempt. No movement after that moment. By sunrise the next morning, the woman holding that phone, Marina Caldwell, was already dead, though no one knew it yet. Marina Caldwell was 29 years old, a wildlife biologist employed by the Wyoming Department of Natural Habitats, and someone who had spent most of her life feeling more at peace in the outdoors than anywhere else. She grew up in Laramie, the eldest of 4 siblings, in a close but hard-working household. Her father, Victor Caldwell, spent weeks at a time on the road as a long-haul truck driver, while her mother, Elaine, worked part-time in a veterinary clinic. Marina was quiet as a child, but intensely curious, the type of girl who kept notebooks filled with sketches of birds and pressed leaves between pages of library books. Elaine would later tell investigators she always noticed details, not just animals, people too. She watched closely, she listened. Marina earned a scholarship to Idaho State University and graduated in 2016 with honors in environmental sciences. She wasn't drawn to prestige or money. She wanted work that mattered. She took a modestly paid position conducting wildlife population surveys across Wyoming, which often meant working alone in remote terrain for days at a time. She lived simply in a small cabin on the edge of Cedar Vale, with maps pinned on the walls, hiking gear stacked neatly by the door, and a life structured around the outdoors. To Marina, hiking wasn't recreation. It was grounding. Friends described it as the way she processed life, the way some people prayed or journaled. "If I'm missing," she once joked to a coworker, "look for me where the trees are." In July 2022, Marina attended a professional workshop on sustainable land mapping hosted in Casper. It was there that she met Darren Kincaid, a 35-year-old man who introduced himself as a terrain data engineer working on contract with multiple environmental agencies. Darren was confident without being loud, articulate without seeming rehearsed. He asked thoughtful questions about Marina's work and seemed genuinely interested in conservation efforts. To Marina, who often felt overlooked in professional circles, the attention felt validating. They exchanged numbers that afternoon, and 3 days later, Darren asked her out for a drink. Their early relationship unfolded quickly but quietly. They took walks instead of going to crowded restaurants. They talked about wilderness ethics, childhood memories, past relationships. Darren shared stories of being misunderstood, of people leaving him once they got to know him. Marina, empathetic by nature, listened without judgment. Friends would later say that Darren seemed to mirror Marina's personality almost too well, adopting her interests, echoing her opinions, speaking in language that matched hers perfectly. At the time, it felt like compatibility. In hindsight, it felt curated. The first signs of trouble were subtle enough that Marina didn't immediately recognize them as warning signs. In early August, she returned from a weekend field assignment to find Darren sitting on the porch of her cabin, waiting. She hadn't told him exactly when she'd be back. Darren laughed when she looked surprised, saying he had figured out her schedule. That explanation stayed with her longer than she admitted. In her personal notebook later that evening, she wrote, "Should someone know my patterns this well already?" But she didn't confront him. She rarely did. Over the next few weeks, Darren began insisting on driving Marina everywhere, claiming her aging Jeep wasn't reliable. He framed it as care, as responsibility. "Let me take care of you," he told her more than once. But the insistence grew heavier. He questioned her need to hike alone, discouraged her from meeting male colleagues for field prep, and asked her to keep her location shared at all times. When Marina pushed back, Darren didn't raise his voice. Instead, he withdrew. His affection became conditional. Marina later confided to her sister Tessa, "When I do what he asks, things feel easy. When I don't, it feels like I've done something wrong." On September 12th, during an argument in Darren's vehicle about Marina taking an upcoming solo field assignment, Darren punched the dashboard hard enough to crack the plastic casing. He immediately apologized, his voice shaking, tears forming in his eyes. He said he struggled with emotional regulation and promised to seek help. Marina forgave him. She always believed people could change if given patience. What she didn't realize was that Darren wasn't losing control. He was testing boundaries. On October 7th, 2022, Darren proposed a 2-day hike along Foxfire Canyon Loop, a remote and sparsely trafficked trail inside Hawthorne Ridge Preserve. Marina hesitated because she had never hiked that route before, but Darren assured her he had already mapped it extensively and that conditions were ideal. He described narrow canyon walls glowing in autumn light and campsites untouched by crowds. He used the word private several times. Marina texted her mother that evening, saying they would be back by Sunday afternoon and that Darren had planned everything. Elaine responded with a simple message, wishing her daughter fun and safety. That exchange would later become unbearable to reread. On Saturday, October 8th, at 5:26 a.m., a neighbor's security camera captured Marina loading her pack into the back of Darren's SUV. She was wearing a navy jacket, hiking pants, and a wool beanie pulled low. Darren held the passenger door open for her. They drove away at 5:30 a.m. By 7:12 a.m., their vehicle passed through North Ridge Gate, the last monitored checkpoint before Foxfire Canyon. A ranger waved them through. No other hikers entered the trail behind them that day. Data recovered later from Marina's smartwatch showed normal activity for the first several hours. Steady pace, planned breaks, heart rate within expected range. But shortly before noon, everything changed. At 11:34 a.m., her heart rate spiked abruptly. GPS data showed sudden directional changes inconsistent with recreational hiking. At 12:17 p.m., Marina attempted to call Tessa. There was no signal. 2 minutes later, she tried 911. That call also failed. At 12:21 p.m., she typed the message that would later define the case. "Please help. He isn't letting me leave." The message never delivered. The phone shut down minutes later, either from battery loss or impact damage. That precise detail would remain unclear. When Marina failed to return home on Sunday, concern escalated quickly. Elaine tried calling her daughter repeatedly, beginning at 5:14 p.m., with no response. By 10:32 p.m., she contacted local authorities to report Marina missing. Deputies located Darren at his residence later that night. He was alone, calm, and cooperative. He told officers that Marina had panicked during the hike, run ahead, and disappeared. When asked why he didn't immediately seek help, he had no clear answer. Detective Colton Reyes would later say Darren spoke like someone explaining a situation rather than reacting to one. Search and rescue teams mobilized immediately. Helicopters scanned canyon walls. Ground teams followed scent trails. On October 12th, volunteers discovered Marina's headlamp wedged beneath a rock shelf. It appeared deliberately placed, not dropped. Her water bottle was found hours later in a dry basin, unusually clean, untouched by wildlife. On October 13th, a canine unit alerted at the base of a narrow cliffside area known as Pine Glass Point. Marina's body was found below. Bruises marked her arms and neck. The medical examiner ruled the cause of death manual strangulation. The manner of death was homicide. As investigators dug into Darren Kincaid's past, a pattern emerged. Multiple former partners described controlling behavior, a stalking complaint filed in 2015, a woman who vanished during a hiking trip in 2018. Her case never solved. Darren had used different aliases for contract work and possessed extensive maps of isolated wilderness areas. Forensic analysis recovered deleted files titled Contingency Plan, MK, October 2022. MK referred to Marina Caldwell. Prosecutors later said there was no evidence of panic or accident, only preparation. Darren was arrested on October 19, 2022. The trial began in July 2023. Jurors heard Marina's final unsent message read aloud in court. Elaine Caldwell collapsed in tears. Tessa testified that her sister believed the forest was a place of safety and never imagined the danger would come from someone she trusted. On August 11, 2023, Darren Kincaid was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to life without parole. He showed no remorse. In 2024, Marina's family established the Marina Trust, dedicated to outdoor safety education, emergency beacon access, and public awareness about coercive control in relationships. Elaine still keeps Marina's trail maps pinned in her living room. Sometimes, she says, I imagine she's still out there, walking, free. Marina Caldwell went into the wilderness, seeking peace. She did not know she was walking beside someone who had already planned her ending. If this story affected you, talk about it. If something feels wrong, trust that instinct. Comment below with your thoughts. Like this video to help others hear Marina's story. And subscribe for more cases that matter. Because some stories don't end when the trail does.